We are starting to see now the green agenda, the green legacy starting to play out, and it ain't pretty at all in terms of energy security, in terms of deindustrialization. This is an absolute disaster. And by the way, that's why you're seeing, despite all the woke corporate preaching, Green parties in elections in Europe are pretty much getting a drubbing everywhere. They're not increasing in support, really. In many countries, they're actually losing seats hand over fist. And when it comes to Sweden now, they are very angry at what is happening and what's happened in Germany, where, of course, you've actually seen the Greens in power as part of a coalition. A lot of this actually centres around the closure of nuclear reactors in Germany and in Sweden. But let's start off in Norway. Norway now very unhappy that its electricity prices are soaring due to demand from Denmark, Germany, and here in the UK. And you can certainly see there that the Norwegian energy minister is far from happy. Indeed, you're now seeing the two ruling parties in Norway pledging to campaign to cut the two power interconnectors that link the country with Denmark. That's because a big part of Norwegian electricity coming from hydropower, but 10% coming from wind power, mainly from the continent. However, because of a lack of wind in Germany, you're now seeing EU power prices jump and Norway on the receiving end of that. And so the Norwegian Labour Party saying they will not renew the Denmark cables. They say things cannot continue this way. It's gotten out of control and we're going to take that control back again. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? But Sweden have been very vocal as well. In fact, they're actually calling for changes in Germany. And you can see a economy writer in Sweden there saying the electricity market is starting to resemble a very failed joke. Indeed, electricity price 18,000% higher in southern Spain than in the middle of the country because it's not windy in Germany. This really is pretty farcical, isn't it? Now, the Swedish government are blaming Germany for this price increase, saying there very clearly that they are furious with the Germans for dismantling nuclear power plants. Indeed, you've seen the Swedish Prime Minister, the Conservative Ulf Kristersson, talk about power prices as a historic debt, referring to the fact that the lefties in Sweden actually shut down nuclear reactors. Indeed, Sweden now looking to construct a new nuclear reactor before 2026. But I do think it is really interesting here to note what the Swedish Energy Minister, Ebba Busch, has said about Germany, about energy production, and about the situation that Europe now finds itself in.
Today's discussion on the future of the energy policy for Europe. Last week in Sweden and in a few other countries, we had soaring electricity prices. And the reason for this is very simple. We have an extremely weather-dependent energy system now. The last 11 years in Sweden, we have pushed in 13,000 megawatts of new installed production capacity, but it has almost exclusively been wind power. It has made prices and the production or the delivery and possible consumption very volatile. And we now see the Swedish market being affected by this, but also highly being affected by the weather-dependent power production in Germany as well. That has been a huge discussion also in Sweden last week. We love renewables, but we also need to have more dispatchable power production, more baseload that makes it possible not only to have a lot of installed production capacity, but also that it is possible for companies to connect to the grid with. So this is where I see the Commission will be in a target conflict. Is it more important to have a specific target for renewables, the amount of renewables, where you can tamper with statistics, for example, by closing down nuclear power plants, or is the main target fossil-free and clean energy production in Europe? I mean, no willpower in the world can override the basic rules of physics, not even Dr. Robert Habeck. Germany can take whatever decision they want, but they need to see it affects their neighbors a lot, and it is not fair that Swedes should pay German prices for German decisions, while we are providing Germany with fossil-free baseload, and they cannot do the same back.
Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Continue.